Well, Razorback fans, we know it is time. It is time for Arkansas to play the number 3 Alabama Crimson Tide in college basketball in Bud Walton Arena tomorrow night at 7:30. What if they win? Let's talk about in today's Locked On Razorbacks podcast.
You are Locked On Razorbacks, your daily podcast on the Arkansas Razorbacks. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And welcome into Locked On Razorbacks podcast. I am your host, John Nabors. I am also the host of Inside Arkansas Live, which you can catch every weekday starting at noon on Inside Arkansas and InsideArkansas.com. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Super Bowl 59 is here, and there's no better way to make every play more exciting than with FanDuel Sportsbook. New customers can bet just $5, and if you win, you'll score $200 in bonus bets. Download the app or head to FanDuel.com to get started. Hope everybody's having a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful Friday, as you've made it. The excitement is pouring in. You're all feeling it, aren't you? I know I am. I'm excited about this. I'm excited in the fact that Arkansas is riding a 2-game win streak and are actually getting to the point to where they are in the conversation of being in the NCAA tournament. Joe Lunardi, and the bracketologist, Joey Brackets, as he is sometimes referred to as, has Arkansas in a great position, actually, of being in the next 4 out, like the very one right there at the top of the next 4 out. So if the tournament were to start today, Arkansas would be the 69th team. Nice. That would be ranked and just on the outside looking in. But you may say, well, that's not a great position to be in. It actually is, because that means that, hey, just a couple more wins here and there, and you're right into the NCAA tournament. And if you really get going on a roll, you'll not only be in the NCAA tournament, you'll be really into the NCAA tournament where it's not even something you have to worry about or be concerned with. Now, you've won 3 of your last 4 games. It should be 4 out of 4, but we won't go there. And in the past 2 games, you've won on the road. At Kentucky, which we all know how insane that was, and then, of course, at Texas here recently. You're not in a position right now to start thinking that you can just run the table and win out the rest of the way. You're not. But you have an opportunity right now, Razorback fans, to where you can believe, you can have confidence, you can feel good about the possibility of your team, your Razorbacks, beating the Alabama Crimson Tide. Now, let me be clear in saying this. I do not believe Arkansas will beat Alabama. I hope I'm wrong. I hope that Arkansas does pull the upset. But if I'm predicting it, if I'm picking it, I'm not going to do that. Alabama's good. They're not unbeatable, but they're really good. And so, knowing that, and knowing that Arkansas has yet to beat them since 2021. I mean, the game where Jalen Tate got ejected from the game back in Bud Walton Arena in front of just a few thousand people, that was the last time Arkansas has beaten Alabama. So it's been a long time. And you throw into the mix of, the fact that they're number 3 and, Nate Oates and them went to the Final Four last year. There's just a lot of things that are kind of there for Alabama, and they're well coached and all of that. So I'm just not going to come out on a limb and be like, oh yeah, Arkansas wins this game going away. I'm not going to do that. But that's not really the topic of conversation, is it? The topic is, what if? What if Arkansas wins this game? Well, I'm going to put it to you like this. If Arkansas wins this game, folks, not only are you in the NCAA tournament talk, you become one of the most dangerous teams that nobody's going to want to face moving forward in the rest of the SEC. Because it's one thing to go on the road and to beat Kentucky in emotional and a very high volatile intention type of arena. And it's another thing to go into Texas, a team that's pretty solid, not great, but pretty solid, but go into their place and win. But it's a whole nother thing to go up against the Alabama Crimson Tide, where they've only lost 1 game so far this year, and they have had a full week off to prepare for you. They're number 3 in the country for a reason. Mark Sears is on the team. I mean, he's player of the year caliber type player. I think Janai Broom has that right now, but Mark Sears has definitely shown it, and it's been weird with him, though. He's been benched in some games, and It's just been very strange. But the overall thought process is that if you win this game, you are there. I believe you would jump many positions up into the net ranking. I think people like Joe Lunardi and other bracketologists would have you firmly into the NCAA tournament. And then suddenly you'd be sitting at 4-6 in SEC play, which we'll talk about the SEC in the best case scenario. But you're sitting pretty with the rest of the scheduled games, which, is pretty difficult. I'm not going to try to pretend that it's not. But you'd be set up to where you have LSU at home next, which should be a game that you get revenge on and win. But then you go on the road at A&M and then Auburn on the road and then Missouri at home. Now, I'm not sitting here saying that you're going to beat Auburn because you're not. That team is just a machine. But could you beat a Texas A&M? Yeah. If you could beat Bama? Yeah. Will you beat Missouri? Could you beat Missouri? Yeah. You could at home for sure. It just opens up to where suddenly, maybe besides Auburn, you're in a position to where you don't fear any of the teams left on the schedule. You don't fear any of them. Like, if you go in and you not to mention you still have South Carolina on the road and Vanderbilt on the road, which are, teams you should beat. You get Mississippi State at home, and you could really start getting something going here. And we all know that John Calipari and his teams and his Razorback teams are going to be the most talked about teams in the country. Time and time and time again. We know that they're going to be alluded to. We know they're going to be focused on. And everyone knows that Cal, when he gets it going, can make his team extremely dangerous. It would be a statement. A statement win to beat the Alabama Crimson Tide. It would no longer be you just played out of your mind against Kentucky. You just did okay against Texas, but they're not any good. No, it'd be a statement of this isn't a fluke. This isn't something that's just off base. This isn't something that everyone's just hoping happens. This is something real. This is a real team that has real studs, that has it going on, and they're going to be a force to be reckoned with. Now, a lot of it's going to, of course, depend on how Arkansas handles the defense and the offense for Bama, because if you're looking at the stats of everything, of course, that's such a dust statement, offense and defense, burp. But no, mainly the offense. Like, Alabama's averaging 90 points a game in this one, folks. 90 points per game. But they also give up 78 points a game. So, they're not a great defensive team when it comes to scoring. But if you're just looking at the statistical categories and the comparisons, they are just 1 percentage point above Arkansas at field goal percentage, 47-46. Alabama does get 9 more rebounds, almost 10 more rebounds per game than Arkansas, so that's definitely something to watch. They have more assists, but Arkansas does have more blocks and more steals. It's just one of those deals that, if Arkansas's defense can come to play, if they can really do a good job against some of their star-studded players and hold them in check, hold Mark Sears in check, and keep them from getting easy baskets, which I know is a tall order to fill. But if they can do that, I believe Arkansas can be in a position to do good enough offensively, especially with the reemergence of Nelly Davis, which we'll talk about as well, to win this game. They can do this. And the factor that maybe nobody wants to understand or maybe needs to realize, this game's in Bud Walton Arena. And you all know how I've been very critical of Bud Walton Arena. I've been critical of the atmospheres, and I've been critical of the things that have gone on there. But this is a Saturday night at 7:30. This is at a point in time of the year where things really need to come together for the Hogs. This is at a time also where you're playing this is your best home game as far as ranks go, as far as everything goes. This is it. This is your best home game. And it's coming at a time when you're flying your highest, that people are feeling the best about it. This is the time for Bud Walton and the magic of Bud Walton to reemerge, to come back with a vengeance, to commit physical assault on people's eardrums. That is what Bud Walton needs to be tomorrow night. Now, the team has to go and take care of business on the floor. We all understand that. At the end of the day, it's about the players making the plays and the execution, playing defense, all of those things. We get it. We understand it. But if that crowd and that energy for that crowd comes through and really, really gets after it, that's something that can tremendously help the Razorbacks in such ways that, you can't even really put a price on, to be honest. It's set up for you, Razorbacks. It's set up for you. You're on a 2-game win streak. People are looking at you. The people are looking and say, hey, this team that was dead in the water just a couple weeks ago, they're back into the conversation. You got the crowd. You're going to have the atmosphere. You're going to have the energy. You got the swagger. You got the confidence. You got everything going for you right now. This is your time. This is the type of game you want to have right now. You shouldn't be looking at it like, oh, man, but we got to play Bama. No, it's like, I cannot wait to play Bama. I cannot wait to play the number 3 team in the country, and I can't wait to beat them. This is perfectly set up for you. It's up to you to take advantage of it. Fans can only do so much. People who are looking at you and wanting you to be in the tournament can only do so much. It's up to you now. You're the ones that's got to make it possible. So let's see what you got. We'll talk a little bit more about Nelly Davis here on the other side of the break. So stay with us on the Locked On Razorbacks podcast. All right, Razorback fans, the game is almost here, and there's no better way to make it even more exciting than with Prize Picks, the best place for daily fantasy sports. With over 10 million members and billions in winnings awarded, Prize Picks makes it fun and simple to get in on the action. Here's how it works for you. You pick more or less on at least 2 player projections, and if you're right, you could win up to 1,000 times your cash. Prize Picks even has a free pick for the big game where Patrick Mahomes only needs 1 throw for a yard to win. Pair that with 1 more correct pick, and you're cashing out. This week, you're going to be looking at, of course, different players, whether it's Travis Kelce on more or less of receiving yards and more for the quarterback passing yardage. Boom, there you go. You can combo it. And what I love the most is fast and safe withdrawals, because when I win, my cash is in my account in as little as 15 minutes. So check out the promos tab to tail any of the super sweet Millie winners, big game lineups. And if you are in a tail lineup that goes 3 for 3, you can split the $1 million cash prize. I mean, come on, what is that? Promo funds? Are you kidding me? That's what you need. So download the app today and use code LOCKEDONCollege to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code LOCKEDONCollege, LOCKEDONCOLLEGE, for $50 instantly when you play your first $5 lineup. It's Prize Picks. Run your game. All right, so moving on into the next segment of the Locked On Razorbacks podcast. The confidence that I was talking about with Arkansas and how you feel and how I feel about the possibility of Arkansas winning this game against Alabama. I'm going to be honest. I know it's a team game. I know it requires more than just this. But the reason I am more confident now is because of Nelly Davis and the emergence of Nelly Davis. And it's weird calling him or saying that it's an emergence when he's literally been, the number 1 transfer portal player. But you know what I'm talking about. He was a no-show for the majority of the season. Sure, there were times he played okay, but up until really when Boogie Flan got hurt, he was just kind of there. Didn't make a lot of his shots, was turning it over, was thinking about a lot of things too much. Just, wasn't being who he was supposed to be and who everyone was hoping to see. But now, things have changed. The game he had against Kentucky and the game he had against Texas on the road, man, that's exactly what you want to see from a player like him. Even in Oklahoma in that loss, which is unfortunate, he still scored 18 points. Granted, he only went 5 of 16 from the field. But even then, he went 3 of 11. Against Georgia, he went 1 of 10. That's not going to get it done. But Nelly going 3 for 6 from three-point land, him going 4 for 8 from three-point land, that's the type of Nelly Davis that you want to see. He doesn't turn the ball over a whole lot in these games, too. He's gotten assists right and left. He's getting rebounds. He got 4 steals the other night against Texas. I mean, that is Nelly Davis and what Nelly Davis needs to be, and that's where my confidence comes in. I've been waiting to see this. I've been waiting, I was just like everybody, waiting to see Nelly Davis become the Nelly Davis that we all thought he would be, that he was promoted to be. We're seeing it, at least in the past 2 games. Now, it's a very small sample size. We're going to need to see a lot more from Nelly Davis before we start saying, like, oh, man, this guy is 100% back. But there's no more excuses. There's no more reasons for him not to be able to be the Nelly Davis in this game against Alabama. You were on the road. Everyone was watching you. Everyone was criticizing you, and I was one of them. Everyone was criticizing you, saying, like, dude, you're not any good. Why are you on the team? Like, what are you giving? All this NIL money to you and all this pomp and circumstances, and you're hurting the team more than you're helping the team, and blah, blah, blah. I mean, all of that was being thrown his way, and I was one of them. It's like it was justified because it was true. When you have an expectation get put on you, and it's not something that I put on you just because I wanted to, is because you had shown that type of play throughout really your years here, not only or years in college basketball at least. So the expectation didn't come from nowhere. It came from the way you've played, and you just were not getting to the point to where you needed to be. But then suddenly, when you get it turned on and you get to see all of that, it's like, man, you fought through that. You fought through all the criticisms that was getting thrown your way. You fought through all of the constant, like, people tweeting about it, people saying, like, where's Nelly Davis? Even national people were like, Nelly Davis is non-existent, or, hey, John Calipari's using Nelly Davis wrong. There was just, everything was about negativity towards Nelly. And being in that spotlight, and, nothing against FAU, but, this is the Razorbacks. This is a big program. This is in Arkansas. This is in the SEC. And you have Cal as your coach. People are going to watch you, and people are going to criticize you. So to go through all of that, I mean, we're talking essentially about, what, close to 20 games? 20-plus games? Where everyone was like, this guy ain't it. And you battled through it all. You battled through it all. You dealt with it, and you came up, and now you're showing them. Sure, I would have rather you shown it all year long, but I'm giving you props, Nelly Davis, for being able to go through all of that and still come out and have your swagger back, have your confidence back. That takes a lot. That takes a serious understanding and a serious drive and determination to fight through all of that and to come out on top. Now, am I going to revert back to being, oh, Nelly Davis isn't any good if he doesn't have the best game against Alabama? No, I don't think that's fair, because Alabama's a really good team. It's about shot selection. It's about mistakes and everything like that. But, I'm just happy that he can be someone that we all can count on once again, because I believe it. If Arkansas is in this game and it's tied with 10, 15 seconds left on the clock, and it's Arkansas's ball, do you know who I want to see with the ball in their hands? Nelly Davis. Isn't that crazy? Nelly Davis. But that's who I want. And I love Adu Thero. Big Z's done some good stuff. I think DJ Wagner's highly undervalued. All these things. But when it comes to that particular case, I want to see Nelly Davis. And who knows? Maybe Arkansas will be in that position against Alabama. And I'm not going to be upset whatever he ends up doing, whatever shot he tries to take and try to make work. But I really like what he's doing. I'm glad he's back, and hopefully he can continue to develop it. What's the best case for the Razorbacks, though, in the SEC at the end of the season? Well, we'll talk about it, so stay with us here on the Locked On Razorbacks podcast. All right, Razorback fans, I'm going to tell you about our friends over there at FanDuel, because we know there's a lot going on with the Super Bowl. I don't know if you heard about it, but Super Bowl 59 being here. It's one game, 2 teams, endless possibilities, and there's no better way to make every play more exciting than with FanDuel Sportsbook. Whether it's predicting the first touchdown, calling the MVP, or even betting on a coin toss, FanDuel makes it easy to get in on the action. With live betting all game long, you can adjust your bets as the game unfolds and feel the thrill from kickoff to the final whistle. The live betting feature allows you to stay involved no matter what happens in the field, and the app is super easy to navigate. Plus, knowing that you can place a $5 bet and potentially win $200 in bonus bets in the Super Bowl, that's the icing on the cake. Download the app and head to FanDuel.com to get started. Bet just $5 and you'll win. Simple as that. You'll score $200 in bonus bets. That's FanDuel.com. Bet with FanDuel, the official partner of Super Bowl 59. All right, so final segment here on the Locked On Razorbacks podcast. What's the best case scenario for Arkansas in the SEC? What a question, right? Because there's still so many games to be played. There's still a lot of time, and a lot of things can go right, things could go wrong. But, what's it going to be like? Well, let's look at it. Arkansas, where it stands, it's crazy. Where it stands, Arkansas is third to last in the SEC right now at 3-6. They're tied with Oklahoma at 3-6, but Oklahoma does have the tiebreaker because Oklahoma beat them. The only teams Arkansas is ahead of is LSU and South Carolina. LSU's 1-8, with their one win being the Razorbacks, and South Carolina is 0-9. But yet here you are, still in the mix for something. But it also shows you just how close everything is. The third best team in the SEC right now, folks, has 6 wins. The third best. You have 3. There are exactly 5 teams. 5 teams that have 6 wins, 5 teams that have 4 wins, and then 2 teams that have 3 wins. So you're talking about a very small margin of error, a very small margin of difference between Arkansas being where they're at now and then jumping up. If they were to beat Bama, because that's kind of the topic of conversation. If they were to beat Bama, Arkansas, depending on what the rest of the SEC does, but Arkansas could realistically jump up to being like number 8 in the conference. Well, I guess that would be a little too high. Maybe number 9 or 10. We'll do that. 9 or 10. With one win. Could change everything. And then when you have LSU in town, you get to that second win, that would put you, folks, at 5-6 in conference play. That doesn't sound anything too incredible, does it? Doesn't sound insane. Well, 5-6 might be good enough for you to jump up even more and get to that 7-8 spot. I mean, that's what a week from now we could be talking about that. Now, I know it's a hard task, and it's a large task to beat Alabama, but I'm just saying that if you're able to do that and you're able to pull it off, you skyrocket into the rankings, into the standings of the SEC. And with the rest of the games going on, and depending on what the other teams do, then you could really gain some ground here. You still got Vanderbilt and Mississippi State ahead of you, but you play both of those teams. You could win. South Carolina is still left on your schedule. That should be a win no matter what. I don't think you're going to, but if you look at the rest of the way, you still have to play Texas A&M. You still have to play Missouri. At least that game's at home. But those are teams that you're battling against when it comes to those standings. So the point is that if you take care of business in the games you're supposed to win, and then go 50-50 in the games that could go either way, and maybe even find an upset, maybe that's what happens tomorrow, you're going to be in prime spot for the SEC in the standings and possibly doing something, having a very high seed in the SEC and really making some noise once the tournament comes around in Nashville. I can't wait. Isn't it great to have excitement again? Isn't it great to have hope? I'm sure it's going to go perfectly fine and there's not going to be any problems whatsoever when we all have faith and hope that this team's going to be great. I'm going to keep believing, though. I refuse to give up. I'm going to keep believing. I'm going to keep thinking till I'm proven otherwise. And I really, really hope that I get to talk to you again on Monday, talking about an upset of the number 3 team in the country, because I'm going to be obnoxious. I'm going to be over the top. I'm going to be dramatic. And I can't be more excited about it if it happens. But appreciate each and every one of you listening in and watching into the Locked On Razorbacks podcast. Be sure to like and subscribe to the podcast on iTunes or Google Play. You can also get after me on Twitter at John Nabors Show for any questions, comments, concerns that you may have. We'll keep it going from there. Same podcast time, same podcast channel tomorrow afternoon. Have a great rest of your day, everybody. We'll see you then.